When Donald Trump pulled on the janitor's coveralls, no one recognized him. That was the point. The name tag said Ronald T. The jumpsuit smelled like bleach. He wore a mop cap and steel-toe boots, and didn't speak unless he had to. He walked through the side entrance of Hamilton Elementary just after 6 a.m. No cameras, no press, just silence and a slow hallway hum of humming fluorescent lights. He wasn't doing it for attention. He wasn't doing it for headlines. He was doing it because he needed to see something for himself. It started 2 weeks earlier. A letter, sent anonymously, handwritten, from a teacher in a public school in rural Pennsylvania. It said, "They're not failing because they're lazy. They're failing because no one sees them. No one shows up." Trump read the letter twice, then put it in his inside coat pocket. That night, he skipped dinner, sat in the dark with a yellow legal pad, wrote one word at the top, invisible. Then he wrote another, go. The next morning, he made 3 phone calls, one to a friend in the union, one to a private security contractor, one to a man in D.C. who owed him a favor. A week later, he had a fake ID, a janitor's certification, and a green light to spend 1 week at Hamilton Elementary undercover. The principal thought it was a film project. The staff didn't ask questions. They were short-staffed. The new custodian was just another name on the schedule. Ronald T. cleaned floors, changed bulbs, hauled garbage. Every hour he learned something new. He saw a boy eat half his breakfast and hide the rest in his backpack. He saw a teacher pay for paper towels with her own money. He saw a 5th grader sitting alone during recess, staring at a tree and whispering to himself. Trump asked around about that boy. The secretary said his name was Mason. No father. Mother working 2 jobs. Sometimes he didn't talk at all. Trump watched him for 2 days. Always alone. Always quiet. Always drawing in a small notebook. On day 3, Trump found the boy's drawing in the trash. A stick figure with a crown. Caption, "A king who sweeps." That night, Trump didn't sleep. He laid on the cot in the back of the school maintenance room, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the tower he built in Manhattan, the hotels in Vegas, the planes, the rallies. And then he thought about that caption. A king who sweeps. The next morning, he brought the drawing back to Mason. Didn't say a word, just handed it to him. Mason looked up. "Why'd you keep it?" Trump said. "Because it said something true." Mason tilted his head. "Even kings gotta clean?" Trump nodded. "Especially kings." Mason smiled, then said, "You don't talk like a janitor." Trump smiled too. "Maybe I'm not a regular one." They sat together for 5 minutes, then 10. Mason showed him another drawing. This one was of a hallway with windows and light pouring in. "This is what I want school to feel like," Mason said. Trump didn't reply. He didn't know how to. Later that day, he wrote a second note to himself. They don't need speeches. They need presence. That afternoon, Mason got pushed in the hallway. A bigger kid. Name was Tyrese. A known bully. Trump saw it happen. Didn't yell, didn't scold. He picked Mason up, helped him brush off, walked him back to class. That night, he stayed late. Found Tyrese in detention. Sat next to him. "You ever feel like no one hears you?" Trump asked. Tyrese shrugged. "All the time." Trump nodded. "So you push because it makes noise." Tyrese looked away. Trump handed him a mop. "Let's clean something together. Not for punishment. For power." They mopped the hallway in silence. When they finished, Tyrese said, "That was weird." Trump said, "Most things that work are." Next morning, Tyrese didn't push anyone. Mason said hi to him. They didn't become friends, but they didn't ignore each other either. And that was something. Trump watched it unfold, one small shift, one quiet turn. He thought about all the debates he'd had, all the cameras, all the headlines, and realized none of them had shown him this. A boy who drew light, a bully who needed noise, a hallway that became a bridge. This was the America he'd fought for. And this was the America no one reported on. By the end of the week, the principal asked if Ronald could stay on full-time. Trump smiled. "Might have to check with my other boss." He left that afternoon. No announcement, no press, just left a letter on the principal's desk. Inside it said, "Your kids are gold. They just need polish. Keep sweeping." The signature was just 2 letters. D.T. Donald Trump didn't tell anyone where he'd been. Not his advisors, not his family, not the people who handled his schedule. He just said, "I needed to see something for myself." And then he went quiet. For 3 days. No media, no posts. He stayed in a small house on the edge of Scranton, in a neighborhood where the mailboxes leaned and the sidewalks cracked. He ordered takeout, wrote in a notebook, walked at sunrise, and every morning he thought about Mason, the boy with the notebook and the line that wouldn't leave his head. A king who sweeps. He pulled that drawing out every night and stared at it like it held an answer. And maybe it did. On the 4th day, he made a call, told his team to find 3 schools in 3 different states. No cameras, no coverage, just access. Told them he wanted a mop, a uniform, and a name badge that said Ron. They didn't ask questions. Not anymore. They just nodded and started making calls. The next week, Trump was in Dayton, Ohio. Same coveralls, same routine. He walked the halls with a bucket and a mop, and a mind that had been sharpened by something deeper than strategy. The janitor's life taught him things no rally ever could. That schools didn't break from lack of funding, they cracked from lack of attention. That kids didn't act out because they were bad, they acted out because they were invisible. That teachers were miracle workers with empty toolboxes. He swept floors, cleaned gum off lockers, changed filters in dusty vents. Every task was simple, but it showed him more than any briefing. In Dayton, he met a girl named Harper. 7 years old, sat alone at lunch, carried a broken lunchbox. She watched him sweep, then followed him down the hall. Said nothing at first, then finally whispered, "You clean like my dad used to." Trump nodded. "Where is he now?" She shrugged. "He left. Mama says he went looking for something better." Trump crouched down, looked her in the eye. "Sometimes better is right where we are. We just can't see it yet." She thought about that, then handed him a sticker from her notebook. It was a cartoon star. Said, "You tried." Trump smiled, put it on his name badge, wore it all day. Didn't take it off, not even when he went home. The principal in Dayton noticed his calm, the way the kids responded to him. "You're not a regular janitor," she said. Trump replied, "Neither are these kids." On day 5, Harper came in with a new lunchbox, pink, with a handwritten tag on the handle. It said, "Property of a star." She smiled when she showed it to him, then said, "I drew this for you." It was a picture of a man sweeping, with gold hair and red shoes. Underneath it read, "Real kings get dirty." Trump stared at it for a long time, then folded it carefully and put it in the same pocket as Mason's. That night he called a friend in New Jersey. "Find me more schools," he said, "the forgotten kind." The friend asked why. Trump said, "Because I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to understand." That answer would never make a headline, but it became his new mission. Quiet visits, no entourage, no mic checks, just coveralls and conversation. One city at a time, one janitor shift at a time. Back in Pennsylvania, the principal at Hamilton Elementary received an envelope. Inside was a grant, enough to fund new supplies, fix the HVAC, hire a second full-time counselor. No logo, no explanation. Just a sticky note that said, "Let the light in." Mason knows the design. She cried when she read it. Mason smiled when he saw the drawing taped to the wall in the main hallway. And that hallway, once dull, once ignored, became something else entirely. A bridge, a reminder that someone had walked it once in silence, had swept its corners, had learned its names, and now others were following. The third school was in Arkansas, a small town where the air smelled like dust and diesel, and the school was more brick than budget. Trump arrived before sunrise again. This time, the name tag read Don R. No one looked twice. The staff was stretched thin. They were just glad someone was willing to mop the cafeteria. He got to work. Quiet. Efficient. He noticed things immediately. The flicker in the hallway lights. The chipped edge of the library table. The smell of mildew near the gym lockers. But what caught his eye was a boy named Caleb. Third grade. Small. Thin. Didn't speak much. Always had a book in his lap, but it was always closed. Just held it like a shield. Trump watched him for 2 days, sitting alone at recess, reading nothing, watching everything. On day 3, Trump sat beside him, said nothing, just sat. After a few minutes, Caleb handed him the book. Trump flipped it open. Blank pages, all of them, not a book, a propriedad, a placeholder. Trump closed it, said, "You hiding or waiting?" Caleb looked down, whispered, "Both." Trump nodded. "I've done that too." The boy looked at him. "You?" Trump smiled. "More than once." He got up and left. The next day, he returned with a real book. Charlotte's Web. Laid it on the bench without a word. Caleb opened it, stared at the pages like they were a new language. He didn't say thanks, just held it tighter than he had the blank one. That was enough. That week, Trump fixed a ceiling tile, replaced a soap dispenser, and changed a fuse that had been blown for 2 months. No one noticed the tasks, but they noticed the difference. The lights stayed on longer, the air smelled cleaner, the hallway buzzed a little more. On Friday, a teacher named Mrs. Green approached him. "You used to be somebody, didn't you?" Trump paused, smiled. "Still am. Just working on different floors now." She nodded, didn't press. That night, she went home and Googled, saw the photos, the rallies, the towers, called her husband into the room. "That's the guy who scrubbed our floors." He didn't believe it. But the next morning, Trump was gone. Left before dawn. Left behind a small envelope with a note for Caleb. Inside was a personalized journal. Leather cover. Embossed with gold letters. "Write something real," the first page said. Caleb never showed it to anyone. But a week later, he started writing in it every morning before school. The teacher noticed. The principal noticed. The boy who once sat in silence now raised his hand in class. 1 question, then 2. A month later, he entered a writing contest. The essay was titled, "The Man Who Saw Through My Pages." He didn't name him. He didn't need to. Trump was already halfway across the country. Next stop, Idaho. Another town, another school, another mop. The visits became a rhythm. Quiet service, observation. One janitor's job at a time. He kept a notebook, filled with drawings from kids, quotes, observations, lessons. On one page he wrote, "The world changes when leaders stop speaking and start sweeping." He didn't say it out loud. He didn't announce it. But it was becoming clear. This wasn't an experiment anymore. It was a mission. Not to fix systems, to see people, to listen, to learn, and in doing so, to lead again, differently. The kind of leadership that doesn't chase cameras, just chooses presence. And at the center of it all was still that first drawing. Folded, worn, a king who sweeps. Because every time he doubted the path, he unfolded that paper and remembered. The greatest power isn't found in podiums. It's found in showing up when no one else will. In Idaho, the town was so small the gas station doubled as the grocery store. The school had one hallway, 2 floors, and 23 parking spaces. The janitor's closet was barely bigger than a broom. Trump didn't care. He showed up anyway. Coveralls, gloves, name tag, D. Tanner. He clocked in at 5:52 a.m. No one questioned him. By now, he had the routine down to a science. Wipe down windows, check the air filters, sweep the main hall, smile at the kids without drawing attention. But this school was different. There was a tension in the air. Not fear, not anger. Something quieter, like waiting, like a breath held too long. Trump noticed the teachers were tired. Not physically, spiritually. They didn't laugh in the break room. They didn't linger in the halls. They moved like they were counting the days. He asked a custodian about it. The man just shrugged. It's the budget. It's the politics. It's the fact no one listens unless there's a scandal. Trump nodded. Took that in. He made a note in his book. These people are carrying more than brooms. Then he met Lily, 4th grade. Blonde curls. Always wore rain boots, even on dry days. She showed up an hour early every morning and sat on the bench outside the school with a small suitcase beside her. Trump asked around, found out she and her mother lived in a motel 15 miles away. The suitcase held her clothes, her books, and a peanut butter sandwich. One day he asked her, "Why so early?" She looked up and said, "School's the only place I know where the lights always come on." That hit him hard. Later that afternoon, he checked the lights himself. Changed 2 bulbs in the stairwell. Replaced a loose wire near the cafeteria. It felt like sacred work. Like he wasn't just fixing things. He was protecting hope. On Thursday, it snowed. Roads froze. School stayed open. Lily arrived, suitcase in hand, cheeks red from the wind. Trump brought her inside early, sat her down near the heater, made her cocoa from the staff room. She looked at him and said, "Are you the principal?" He smiled. "Nope." "Are you a teacher?" "Not quite." "Then what are you?" Trump thought about it, then said, "Just someone who sees you." Lily nodded. That answer was enough. Later that week, she left a note taped to the janitor's cart. It said, "Thank you for seeing me." Trump kept that note, placed it next to Mason's drawing and Harper's picture. The collection was growing, but each one pointed to the same truth. The kids didn't need speeches. They needed presence. At the end of the week, the school staff threw a surprise lunch. "For the best custodian we've ever had," one teacher said. Trump accepted a slice of cake, said few words, but before he left, he gave the principal an envelope. Inside was a check, enough to buy new supplies, new books, fix the heater. No name, just a typed message. Because the lights should always come on. Lily never found out. But when she walked in the next Monday and saw new lights in the stairwell, she smiled. The kind of smile that knows someone is watching out for you, even if they never say it. And Donald Trump, once the most visible man on earth, boarded a flight under a fake name and disappeared into the quiet again. Because the work wasn't done. Because Mason's words still echoed. A king who sweeps. And the sweeping wasn't just about floors anymore. It was about hearts, about forgotten corners, about showing America what leadership looks like when no one's looking. Trump flew into Texas on a Wednesday. No headlines, no fanfare. Just another man in an old coat, stepping off a regional flight. He rented a truck, drove himself, pulled into the back lot of a school outside Houston with a duffel bag and a quiet mission. His badge said Danny T. The office staff handed him a schedule, a map, and a key to the supply room. He got to work. He liked starting early, cleaning before the noise, fixing things before anyone noticed they were broken. It was the kind of work where results didn't need applause. You just knew when it was done right. But this school was different. Not because of the building, because of the weight. He could feel it. In the eyes of the teachers, in the silence of the halls, in the posters peeling off the walls. It wasn't neglect. It was exhaustion. Like they'd asked for help so many times and stopped expecting it to come. On day 2, he met Noah, 6th grade, wore a hoodie 2 sizes too big, and kept his head down. Didn't speak much. Trump saw him standing by the vending machine after school. Not buying, just staring. "You hungry?" Trump asked. Noah shrugged. "Don't got money." Trump pulled out $1. "Today's your lucky day." Noah looked up, surprised, took the $1, bought a granola bar, handed half back. Trump shook his head. "You eat. I'll sweep." Noah smiled a little, just a little. Next day, same thing. Trump brought a snack. Noah shared a joke. Trump laughed harder than he had in weeks. It became a thing. Quiet moments, end-of-day talks, no lectures, no advice, just presence. On Friday, Noah brought him something. A keychain made of yarn, said DT on it. Trump stared at it. "You know?" Noah grinned. "The hair gave you away." Trump laughed. "And here I thought I blended in." Noah looked serious. "Why are you really here?" Trump paused, then said, "To listen." Noah nodded. "Then I'm glad you showed up." That night, Trump sat in the supply closet with his notebook. Wrote one sentence. Sometimes the smallest gifts come from the deepest places. The next day, Trump walked into the cafeteria and saw Noah sitting with 2 other boys. Laughing, talking. First time all week. He didn't interrupt, just watched. Then turned and cleaned the far corner. Quietly. Joyfully. On his last day, he left a package in the front office. Inside were new shoes, a prepaid grocery card, and a note. For Noah. Because someone's always watching when you think they're not. The school never knew who paid for it. But Noah kept the shoes spotless. And the keychain? Trump added it to the zipper of his duffel bag. It hung next to Lily's note, next to Caleb's picture, next to Mason's original sketch. The reminders were stacking up. But he didn't feel overwhelmed. He felt grounded. He was learning more in janitor closets than in war rooms, more from kids than consultants, more from mop buckets than meetings. This wasn't about image anymore. It was about insight. Because America wasn't broken from the top down. It was bleeding from the bottom up. And this walking, mopping, listening, this was how you stopped the bleeding. One hallway at a time. One forgotten school at a time. One kid at a time. And Donald Trump, once the man on the tallest stage, was finding the most meaning in the lowest rooms. The next school was in North Carolina, a rural district where the nearest Walmart was 25 miles away, and most of the kids knew how to change oil before they knew algebra. Trump arrived under the name Dennis T. He signed in at the main office and was handed a faded map and a ring of keys labeled with masking tape. The custodian he was replacing had retired after 37 years. No one asked many questions. They just said, "You're here? Good. We need help." He got to work. Boiler room, gym floor, cafeteria windows. It wasn't glamorous, but it was grounding. He liked how quiet it was. He liked how real it was. No speeches, just service. He met Chloe on day 2, fifth grade, wore oversized glasses and carried a notebook covered in glitter stickers. She walked the halls like she was solving a puzzle in her head. Trump noticed she stayed behind after lunch every day, always cleaning the table she sat at, always alone. On Thursday, he asked her why. She looked up and said, "Because my dad says you leave things better than you found them." Trump nodded. "He's a smart man." Chloe shrugged. "He's in jail." Trump paused. "That doesn't mean he's wrong." They talked for a few minutes. Chloe didn't say much, but when she left, she handed him a piece of folded paper. Inside was a crayon drawing of a hallway filled with light. At the bottom, it read, "You make things shine." That night, Trump didn't go back to his motel. He stayed in the supply room and stared at the drawing, added it to the others. The collection was growing, but it wasn't just paper. It was purpose. The next morning, the power went out during first period. Storm had taken down a nearby line. No lights, no PA system, no working phones. Some kids got scared, some panicked, but Chloe didn't. She found Trump in the hallway with a flashlight. "We should check the younger kids," she said. He nodded. They did, together, classroom by classroom. Kids calmed down when they saw them. Chloe gave stickers. Trump told stories. It worked. When the power came back on 2 hours later, the principal walked up to him. "You're not just a custodian, are you?" Trump smiled. "Aren't we all?" That afternoon, he fixed a clogged sink, replaced a missing doorstop, and installed a new soap dispenser. Then he left a check in the staff mailbox. No name, just a sticky note. "For whatever you're not getting from the state." The next day, Chloe sat with 2 girls at lunch, laughing, sharing glitter pens. The table was cleaner than ever. Trump swept the far corner, watched, then turned to go. No goodbye, just another exit under another name. But Chloe left something for him. A note taped to the janitor's closet. It read, "You don't just clean, you restore." He folded it carefully, added it to the notebook, then wrote one sentence below it. "Restoration doesn't need recognition. It just needs consistency." That night, he boarded a bus, headed west. No staff, no cameras, just him, a backpack full of paper, and the growing conviction that the country didn't need more platforms. It needed more people willing to kneel down and wipe the floor if it meant someone else could walk forward without slipping. And Trump had made up his mind. He wasn't done sweeping. The next stop was Michigan, a small town near Flint. The kind of place the news only mentioned during a crisis. Trump arrived before dawn again. The air smelled like winter and worry. His name tag this time said Doug T. He wore thick gloves, a thermal hoodie, and boots older than most of the school buses. The building was worn but proud. Blue paint chipped from the brick walls. An American flag that had seen better years hung above the front door. He walked inside, was handed a clipboard, a map, a broom, and a nod. No questions asked. The principal was kind but tired. Her office had a space heater buzzing under the desk. Her coffee pot was cracked. Trump swept the halls, wiped the glass, cleared salt off the steps. By now, he didn't need instruction. He moved like he belonged. Because he did. That's where he met Jalen, 5th grader. Wore a Detroit Lions cap every day. Lived with his aunt. Came in early, stayed late. Trump noticed he walked the halls slowly, like he was trying to stretch the time. On day 3, Trump asked him, "You always here this early?" Jalen shrugged. "Aunt works 2 jobs. I like it better here anyway." Trump nodded. "You help out?" Jalen grinned. "Yeah, I collect the recycling." That afternoon, Trump followed him, watched him move from class to class, dragging a blue bin, humming quietly to himself. When they finished, Trump gave him a high five. "Good work," Jalen smiled big. "No one ever says that," Trump replied. "Then they're missing it." The next day, Jalen brought donuts. One for himself, one for Mr. Doug. Trump ate it slowly, thought about all the meetings he'd sat through in his past life. Not one of them had been this honest. That week, Jalen asked, "Why do you mop so careful?" Trump said, "Because I care where people walk." Jalen looked down. "No one's ever said that about this school." Trump looked around. "They should." On Thursday, they cleaned a hallway together. Trump gave Jalen his own pair of gloves. Let him hold the mop. Jalen laughed. "I feel like a boss." Trump said, "You are." That moment stuck, more than any camera ever could. On his last day, Trump placed a small box in the recycling bin. Inside was a new Lions hat, a hoodie that said "Proud to Sweep," and a handwritten note. "Leadership starts with responsibility." "You've already started." Jalen found it during his rounds, ran straight to the custodian closet, but Trump was gone. Left before the sun rose. Left behind clean floors and full hearts. That night, Trump added Jalen's photo to the notebook, wrote a line under it. He didn't need permission to lead. He just needed someone to say he already was. Then he closed the notebook, sat in silence, and planned his next stop. He knew this wasn't going to fix everything. He knew it wouldn't erase the noise. But it was planting something. Quiet, steady, unshakable. The country didn't need more noise. It needed more rooms like this, more kids like Jalen, more moments where dignity was restored in places long ignored. And so Donald Trump, former president, billionaire, headline magnate, kept sweeping, kept listening, kept showing up, because that's where the real power lives. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where people need you the most and never expect you to come. The next school sat just outside Atlanta, a faded building tucked between two highways and a train line. Trump arrived early again, this time in the rain, wore a poncho over his janitor uniform. Name tag said Dean T. Walked through puddles into a front office where no one made eye contact. They handed him a mop and a punch card. That was it. No welcome, no questions, just silence. He liked it that way. Gave him time to observe. The halls were too quiet. The teachers too stressed. The kids too withdrawn. Something deeper was broken here. He could feel it. In the tension behind every door. He cleaned slowly, methodically. Listened, watched, waited. That's when he met Zoe. 4th grade, tiny, curly hair, carried a clipboard like it was armor. She didn't smile, not once, but she noticed everything. She walked the halls before class, took notes. Trump followed from a distance, watched her mark things down with precision. Light bulbs, lockers, trash cans. He caught up with her one morning. "What are you writing?" She looked up. "Broken things." He raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "So I remember what to fix when I get older." He didn't speak, just nodded. The next day, he handed her a new notepad. Leather-bound, clean pages, gold-embossed name on the front, Zoe T. She asked what the T stood for. He smiled. Troubleshooter. That cracked the first smile he'd seen from her. Small, but real. They started working together. During lunch, after school, she'd point, he'd fix. She'd note, he'd teach. Light bulbs replaced. Locks oiled. Tiles reglued. Zoe called it the quiet fix list. Trump added it to his notebook. She didn't talk much about home, but he found out through a staff member, 2 siblings, mother gone, grandmother raising them on a fixed income. Zoe was the glue. That explained the clipboard, the silence, the discipline. She wasn't just trying to survive, she was already leading, one hallway at a time. On Thursday, Trump brought in a tool belt just her size. She wore it all day, even during class, said it made her feel real. That afternoon, he fixed the heater in the main stairwell. She watched, handed him screws, asked questions, took notes. When they finished, she looked up and said, "You're not really a janitor, are you?" Trump smirked. "Not officially." She nodded like she already knew. "Doesn't matter. You act like one." He chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." On Friday, she gave him a folder. Inside were all her notes from the week, labeled, indexed, prioritized. On the last page, she wrote, "Thanks for making quiet people feel important." He didn't speak, just hugged her. Not long, but enough. When he left that day, he left a bag in the office. Inside were hardware store gift cards, new tools, and a printed plan for a student maintenance club. The folder was labeled Zoe's Fix Team. No signature, just a post-it. You already know what's broken. Now you'll know how to rebuild it. The principal found the folder, launched the club the next week. Zoe ran it. 3 other kids joined. They fixed 6 things in 2 weeks. Trump read about it in a private email from the staff, printed the photos, taped them in his notebook, wrote below them. She didn't need permission, just tools. Then he packed his bag, booked his flight, and moved on. Because someone else was out there. Another Mason, another Lily, another Zoe, another hallway waiting to be swept. And he would find them. One school at a time, one chair at a time. One kid who thinks no one sees them. And prove they're wrong. The snow in Wisconsin came fast. Thick flakes like silence falling in slow motion. Trump pulled up in an old pickup, wore 2 layers under the gray janitor uniform. Name tag said Dan T. School was a brick rectangle with frozen pipes and more duct tape than tools. The custodian let him in. "Hope you know how to fix a boiler," he said. Trump smiled. "I've fixed bigger." They got to work. By now, the rhythm was muscle memory. Clean, fix, observe, listen. He wasn't looking for applause. He was listening for pain. And there was plenty of it here. Cold classrooms, flickering lights, empty supply shelves. But none of that hit him harder than the girl in the music room. Her name was Ava, 6th grade. Sat at the back of the room every lunch period. Played a broken keyboard. Same 3 notes over and over. Trump stood outside the door and watched. She wasn't playing a song. She was playing a question, over and over, a quiet search for something she hadn't found yet. He approached slowly. "Need help tuning that?" She looked up, eyes red, voice flat. "It's not broken, just old." "You take lessons?" "Used to." "Why'd you stop?" "Because the piano did." He nodded. Came back the next day with a screwdriver and a roll of felt. Spent an hour fixing the keys. Ava watched the whole time. Didn't speak. Just watched. When he finished, he played a short melody. Something soft, unfamiliar. She smiled. "You know how to play?" He nodded. "A little." "Who taught you?" "Someone who believed I could." She thought about that, then said, "That's rare." The next day, she played something new. It wasn't perfect, but it was brave. Trump clapped. She looked shocked. "Nobody claps here," she said. "Then I guess I'm not nobody," he replied. That night, he ordered a full digital keyboard, paid for a stand, a new bench. Didn't tell anyone. It arrived 2 days later. The tag read, "For Ava, play louder." She cried when she saw it, hugged the janitor, didn't ask questions, just said, "Thank you." On his last day, she handed him a page of sheet music, her own, titled "Fixing Floors." Trump stared at it. "You wrote this?" She nodded. "It's not finished, but neither are we." That line stayed with him. He wrote it down in his notebook, underlined it, then added, "These kids aren't broken. They're waiting." Before he left, he repaired the music room lights, adjusted the heating vents, left a check with the principal in a plain envelope. No name, just a card inside that said, "Make sure Ava always has keys that work." She never found out who sent it, but she kept playing. Every day, a little louder, a little more finished. Trump flew out in the early morning, frost on the windows, heart full, backpack heavier. Another name, another story, another reminder that dignity doesn't come from press conferences. It comes from presence, from sweeping hallways, from tuning broken keys, from being there when no one else does. The notebook was getting thicker now, filled with photos, quotes, stickers, scribbles, and one drawing from Ava. A piano with one stool, and a man in a hoodie listening in the doorway, captioned, "Sometimes the quietest audience claps the loudest." Trump folded it, tucked it between Mason's and Zoe's, and whispered to himself, "We're not done yet." Then he turned the page. The school in New Mexico sat alone in the desert. Sand blew through the cracks in the sidewalk. The air was dry and still. Trump arrived at 5:45 a.m., wore tan coveralls, hat pulled low. Name tag said, "Donnie T." No one blinked when he walked through the side door. The staff barely looked up, too tired, too used to things breaking. They gave him a clipboard and a ring of keys. "Boiler's loud," one teacher said. "Lockers jam on the east wing," another muttered. He nodded, got to work. By now, he understood something deeper than routine. Janitors don't just clean buildings. They carry their secrets. And this school had plenty. Cracked walls, forgotten supplies, a teacher crying quietly in her car before first bell. But the one that stood out most was the boy behind the dumpsters. He saw him out there at lunch, sitting on a milk crate. Hoodie pulled up, head down. Trump walked outside. "This your lunch spot?" The boy didn't answer. Trump sat on the second crate, waited. Eventually the boy said, "It's quieter here." "Quieter's not always better," Trump replied. "Sometimes it is." "You got a name?" "Miguel." "You eat yet?" "Not hungry." Trump handed him half a sandwich. Miguel took it. "You're not like the other janitors." Trump smiled. "That's because I'm not." The next day, Miguel was waiting. Brought his own crate. They talked about sandwiches, about homework, about how his mom worked nights and slept in the morning, and how no one had time for anything. Trump just listened. That was the magic. No lectures, just presence. On day 4, Miguel asked, "Why are you really here?" Trump looked at him. "To make things better." "By mopping floors?" "Sometimes the floor's where the truth lives." Miguel didn't understand that yet, but he would. That afternoon, Trump fixed the broken lockers in the East Wing. Found a drawing taped to the inside of one. A stick figure with a mop and a speech bubble. "I see you." No name, no explanation. But he knew. On his last day, he gave Miguel a backpack. Inside was a lunchbox, a notebook, and a photo of a hallway with clean floors. On the back of the photo, he wrote, "The quiet ones still count." Miguel never said thank you. He didn't need to. He showed up the next week to help the custodian sweep. Volunteered twice a week. Said it gave him peace. The staff noticed. The school felt different. Lighter, less forgotten. No press, no announcements. Just presence. That night, Trump added a new page to his notebook. Miguel's name. A sketch of a crate and a sandwich. Then he wrote, "Sometimes the most broken places are just waiting for someone to sit beside them." Then he packed his things, left before sunrise, another hallway, another child, another lesson. By now, the notebook was bulging, a quiet ledger of moments that mattered. Each name, each drawing, each story, stacked like bricks in something real. A foundation not built with fame, but with faith. And the man once known for gold buildings and bold headlines had found a new kind of glory. One mop, one kid, one story at a time. And still, he wasn't done. Trump stood in the supply closet of a school in Tennessee and stared at the mop in his hands. It was early, still dark outside. Rain tapped the windows. The building smelled like old books and linoleum. His badge read, Mr. D. He tightened his gloves, walked the hall. This school was newer, shinier. But that didn't mean it wasn't hurting. Hurt doesn't always look like peeling paint. Sometimes it hides under polished floors and smiles that don't reach the eyes. He walked past a classroom and heard a voice. Loud, not angry. Worried. A teacher, pleading with a student. You can't just give up, Marcus. The boy didn't respond. Trump leaned on the doorframe. Watched. Marcus sat slouched. Hood up, arms crossed. Trump recognized the look. Defended on the outside, cracked on the inside. After the bell, Marcus stayed behind. Trump stepped in. Tough day? Marcus didn't answer. Trump sat 2 desks away. You ever clean a hallway? Marcus looked over. What? I'm short on help. You in? Marcus shrugged. Guess? They mopped for 20 minutes. In silence. At the end, Trump handed him a rag. Want to polish the brass? Marcus smirked. You're weird. You noticed that fast. Marcus smiled. First time all day. They kept working together, every day after school. No talking at first. Then a few questions. Then full conversations. Trump learned his dad left. Mom worked doubles. School was just background noise. No one listens unless I yell, Marcus said. Trump handed him a broom. Then make your silence louder. Marcus thought about that. The next day he showed up with headphones and swept the whole East Wing without being asked. Staff noticed. A few nodded. One clapped. Small things. Big impact. On Thursday, Trump gave him a toolbox. Nothing fancy. Just solid. Inside was a note. Tools don't fix people, but they help people fix things. Marcus took it home. Started fixing chairs in his neighborhood. Told a neighbor he was starting a respect crew. Word got around. The principal called Trump into her office. Who are you? She asked. Trump looked at the photos on her desk. Kids, smiling. Just a guy who shows up. She nodded. Said nothing else. On his last day, Marcus didn't say goodbye. He just handed Trump a crumpled paper. A poem. 6 lines. The last line read, I wasn't broken. I was buried. Trump didn't speak. He folded it. Placed it in the back of his notebook, right next to the page where he had once written, They don't need speeches. They need presence. Before he left, he repaired the back stairwell, replaced a lock on the side entrance, and left a voucher for 20 books in the library. No name, no credit. Just one post-it note taped to the wall. Someone swept here. Someone cared. Marcus saw it the next day, smiled, and started leaving notes of his own. One in every classroom. Simple words. You're not alone. Trump flew out that night. Quiet jet. Heavy heart. A heart full of names. Mason, Lily, Miguel, Zoe, Jalen, Avenue Marcus. Each one a story. Each one a lesson. Each one a reason to keep going. Because something was happening. Something real. And no one was talking about it. Not yet. But they would. One day. They'd ask how things changed. How the tide turned. How forgotten places found light again. And someone, somewhere, would say, it started with a mop. And a man who used to be everywhere. Until he chose to be somewhere that mattered more. And that would be the truth. Trump flew west. No media knew. No reporters guessed. He landed in a small airport in Oregon and rented the plainest car they had. He liked it that way. The quiet, the invisibility, the freedom to move without filters. The school was rural. Red paint faded to pink. A woodshop out back. One hallway led to every room. His name tag read David T. He clocked in at 6:02 a.m. The custodian was in his 60s, limped on his left leg. "Appreciate the help," he said. "Nobody wants this job anymore." Trump nodded. They don't know what they're missing. The first thing he noticed was the woodshop door wouldn't close. Second thing was that every desk in room 3 rocked like a seesaw. Third was the girl who whittled pencils down to nothing and never spoke. Her name was Emma. She sat near the window, always working on something, always alone. One afternoon, Trump fixed the woodshop door. Emma watched through the glass, said nothing, just watched. Next day, he brought a block of wood, set it on the workbench. She stared. "For me?" He nodded. "Figure you'll know what to do with it." She didn't answer, just got to work. Shaved it down with patience, craft, precision. By Thursday, it was a figure, small, plain. A man holding a broom. No face, just form. She handed it to him. "Thanks for fixing the lock." That was all. Then she went back to work. Trump carried that figure in his coat pocket the rest of the day. At lunch, he asked a teacher about her. "Emma doesn't talk much, doesn't trust much, but she watches everything." He nodded. Understood that type. Quiet on the outside, fire underneath. On Friday, she left something on his cart. A folded note. 4 words. "Keep building." "I see." He sat alone after the bell rang and read it 5 times. Added it to the notebook. Wrote under it, "The quiet ones build legacies with no applause." That evening, he left her a package in the woodshop. New carving knives, 3 fresh blocks of wood, a notebook. On the inside cover, he wrote, "Every builder starts with a broken block. What you shape from it is your story." She never said, "Thank you." Didn't need to. Her eyes did when she walked past him Monday morning and smiled without looking up. Before he left, he told the principal, "You have an artist here. Don't let her go unnoticed." The principal smiled. "We know. We just don't always have the tools to help." Trump said, "Then I'll give you mine." Handed her a check folded inside a brown envelope. Enough to fix the roof. Replace the saws. Start an after-school trades program. No press release. No ribbon cutting. Just 1 sentence written on the memo line. For Emma's bench. Because when the world forgets its builders, it forgets its future. And Trump knew, now more than ever, that America's builders weren't behind podiums. They were carving figures out of scraps, quietly, patiently, in rooms no one visited. And those rooms mattered. Those stories mattered. And he would keep finding them. 1 hallway, 1 bench, 1 child at a time. It was supposed to be a short stop. One day, in and out, a quick visit to a school near the mountains of West Virginia. But that changed the moment he saw the boy in the hallway with the ripped notebook and untied shoes. Trump arrived before dawn. A different disguise this time. Name tag said, Don T. A bit bolder. The front office was dimly lit. They handed him a schedule. Told him the bathroom in Wing B was leaking again. He nodded, took the mop, and walked the halls like he always did now, with his eyes open, his heart ready, and his notebook never far. The building was old, no insulation. The heater rattled like it was coughing up memories. He passed classrooms with cracked blinds and crooked clocks. The kids were quiet, too quiet, like they'd learned not to expect much. But that boy, the one with the notebook, he was different. He sat on the hallway floor during recess, not in trouble, just avoiding. Trump walked by and said nothing the first time, just noted the posture, the eyes, the way the boy held his pen like it was armor. On day 2, he stopped. "What are you working on?" The boy looked up. "I write down what I'd say if people listened." Trump sat down across from him. "Anyone ever read it?" "Number. That's the point." Trump reached out. "Can I?" The boy hesitated, then handed over the notebook. Trump flipped through, page after page of raw honesty. No grammar, no polish. Just truth. Pain, hope, anger, wonder. Trump closed it. "You ever think about reading this out loud?" The boy shook his head. They'd laugh. Trump leaned closer. "Not if they recognize themselves in your words." The boy didn't reply. But the next day, he brought a second notebook. Blank. "For you," he said. "So you can write too." Trump nodded, took it, wrote one sentence inside. "Sometimes the best words are the ones that don't try to impress. Just tell the truth." The boy smiled. "My name's Jaden." Trump replied, "Nice to meet you, Jaden." They sat together every lunch that week. Didn't always talk, didn't always write. Sometimes they just sat. And that was enough. On Friday, Jaden stood in front of his class and read a paragraph. First time ever. The room was silent when he finished. One teacher wiped her eyes. Jaden sat down, shaking. Trump met him in the hallway later. "How'd it feel?" Jaden said. "Like my voice mattered." Trump replied, "It always did. You just needed the right moment." That night, Trump wrote a letter to the school board, not as a former president, as a janitor, a witness. He requested a creative writing program, enclosed a donation, anonymous, with one instruction: find the kids who have something to say, but no one to say it to. Jaden never knew, but the program started 2 months later. 3 kids published short stories. One won a county award. Jaden kept writing. One lunch, one hallway, one notebook at a time. Trump left the school quietly. As always, no goodbyes, just swept the last hallway, adjusted the leaking faucet, and left a sticky note on the staff fridge. It read, "Look for the boy with the notebook. He's already leading." Then he walked out into the cold air, climbed into a borrowed truck, and flipped to a new page in his own notebook. Another story, another student, another truth uncovered where no one thought to look. And the road ahead? Still long, still full, still calling. Because for every hallway he cleaned, another was waiting. For presence, for patience, for someone to see what others passed by. Trump didn't plan to go back to the city. He preferred the quiet towns, the schools no one talked about. But something pulled him to Chicago, South Side. Not the skyline, not the lake. The brick school next to a boarded-up grocery store and a cracked basketball court. He arrived on a Monday. Gray hoodie, black work boots, ID tag clipped to his coat. D. Trask. The security guard waved him in without a word. He walked through metal detectors, past walls covered in old murals. The building felt tired, like it had stories to tell but no one to listen. That's where he met Devin. 7th grade. Tall. Always leaning back in his chair like he didn't care if it broke. Eyes sharp, shoulders tense. Trump noticed him the second day. Heard the name before he met the boy. Teachers said he was trouble. Smart kid, just angry. Trump understood that look. The armor, the attitude, the noise. So he waited. Swept the same hallway every morning. Picked up the same candy wrappers. Didn't say a word until Devin dropped a pencil, and Trump handed it back. "You left your sword," Trump said. Devin smirked. "It's just a pencil." "Only if you use it like one." Devin laughed. First real laugh Trump heard in days. That afternoon, they talked. Not long, not deep, just enough. Trump asked, "What would you fix here if you could?" Devon didn't hesitate. "Start with the gym. It's trash." Trump nodded. "Draw it. Show me what it should look like." Devon blinked. "You serious?" "Completely." The next day, Devon brought a sketch. Crumpled edges, faded marker lines, but full of vision. New bleachers, real hoops, wall art with quotes. "This is what a gym should feel like," Devon said. Trump looked it over. "Ever think about architecture?" "Nah," Devon said. "No one builds stuff around here." Trump handed the paper back. "Then maybe you should be the first." That night, Trump wrote a check. Quiet. Anonymous. Sent it through a friend who knew how to move money without headlines. 6 weeks later, the gym was under renovation. The school thought it was a city grant. No one knew the janitor started it. Devon smiled when he saw the scaffolding. Didn't say much, but Trump saw him drawing more. Not just gyms, parks, libraries, schools. The blueprint of a world that hadn't given up. On Friday, Devon handed him a fresh sketch. "You're building," he said, "if you ever decide to stop hiding." Trump unfolded it. It was a school. 2 stories, big windows, labeled rooms. One door marked listening room. Trump looked up. "What's that?" "Where people like you sit, and don't talk until someone finally feels heard." Trump nodded. "That's the most important room in the whole place." Devon grinned. "I thought so too." On Trump's last day, he left a rolled-up blueprint on the principal's desk. Devon's drawing. A note taped to it. "This is what a future looks like. Built by someone you thought was just angry." Devon never found out who sent it, but he kept sketching. Applied to a high school program downtown. Got in. Said he wanted to build places where people actually feel safe. And Trump? He flew out under a different name, carrying a copy of the sketch in his notebook. Wrote underneath it, "Every blueprint starts in a mind that someone refused to ignore." Then he turned the page and headed for the next school, the next hallway, the next kid that didn't fit a box, but might just rebuild the whole world if someone gave him space. The school in Arizona looked more like a warehouse. Flat roof, faded stucco, a fence with bent corners, and a sign that had lost half its paint. Trump pulled in just after 5 a.m., wore sunglasses and a tan baseball cap. Name tag read Dale T. The custodian handed him a rusted ring of keys and pointed toward the west wing. "Try not to slam the boiler door," he said. "It'll wake the mice." Trump nodded, started sweeping before the sun rose. The floors echoed. The ceilings leaked in the corners. The cafeteria buzzed with broken lights. But what struck him most was the silence. The kind that doesn't come from order, but from giving up. Kids walked with heads down. Teachers spoke in short bursts. Everyone just trying to make it through. Until he saw her. A girl in a red hoodie, sitting under a staircase with a stack of flashcards and a broken pencil. She read out loud, quietly, like she was trying to convince herself the words would matter. Her name was Lila. Trump watched her for 2 days. Always the same spot. Always alone. On day 3, he walked over. "Need a sharper pencil?" She looked up, blinked. "This one works, kind of." He handed her a fresh pack. She opened it like it was a birthday gift. "Thanks, Mr. Dale." "Thanks, Mr. Dale." He sat on the steps. "You studying for a test?" She nodded. "Reading retake. I always fail the first time." "Who told you that's how it has to be?" She paused. "No one. That's just how it's been. Until now." They met every day after that. 20 minutes. Same spot. He read with her, coached her, let her lead. She didn't need a tutor. She needed someone who didn't quit after the first try. By Friday, she passed the practice test. He fist-bumped her. She laughed so loud 2 kids turned around. "You always been a janitor?" she asked. He smiled. "Number but. I've been quiet long enough." On Monday, she passed the real test, got a sticker from her teacher, wore it all day, gave Trump a note after lunch. 1 sentence. "You helped me read, but mostly you helped me believe." He added it to the notebook, tucked it next to Jaden's poem. Then he met her mother. She came in during pickup, tears in her eyes. "She's never smiled like this. Not in years." Trump just nodded. "She did the work. I just made sure someone was watching." He left the school that Friday, cleaned the mop one last time, tightened the last bolt on a leaking sink, then taped a gift to the underside of the staircase where Lila used to sit. A small journal, a fresh pencil, and a note that said, "Every word you learn is a step toward the life you'll build. Don't stop." Lila found it the next week, wrote her first story in it, called it "The Girl Who Got a Second Chance." She read it in front of the class. No one laughed. Everyone listened. Trump boarded a plane out of Arizona with her words in his pocket. On a napkin, he wrote, "We don't need louder voices. We need longer patience." Then he flipped to the next page of the notebook. A blank one. Waiting. Like every hallway he walked. Like every kid no one believed in. Yet. The last stop was unplanned. A favor from a friend. A school outside Tulsa with peeling paint, a cracked bell tower, and more stories than staff. Trump showed up in the rain. Wore black boots and a windbreaker. Name tag said Don T. The secretary barely looked up. "We're short 2 aides and a nurse. Welcome to the Miracle Factory." He smiled, took the key, started sweeping. Same rhythm, different hallway. But this time, something felt different. Like the story wasn't starting. It was finishing. Then he saw him. A boy in a wheelchair near the art room, name tag on his backpack, Ellis, small, wide-eyed. Talked to everyone, but was always sitting alone. Trump watched, noticed how no one was mean, but no one stopped either. They let Ellis be invisible without being cruel. Trump sat next to him one morning. "Mind if I join you?" Ellis shrugged. "No one ever does." "Then let's change that." They talked about drawing, superheroes, elevators that worked, elevators that didn't. "I know I move slow," Ellis said, "but I see fast." That line hit Trump harder than most. He asked Ellis what he'd change about the school. "Ramps that don't shake, doors I can open myself, and a sink I don't need to ask for help with." Trump wrote it all down. That afternoon, he fixed the art room sink. Next day, he adjusted the door tension. By Friday, he'd installed 2 small ramps from a hardware store. Staff asked questions. He just said, "Someone's watching." Ellis noticed, rolled over the new ramp, tapped it twice. "Feels like someone listened." They did. On Monday, Trump gave him a drawing. One Ellis had sketched. The janitor with the broom and the cape. Trump had it laminated. "This is going in my journal," he said. Ellis grinned. "So I made the cut?" "You helped write it." On the final day, Ellis wheeled to the front steps and handed him a folder. Inside were 9 drawings, 1 from each day. 1 janitor, 1 broom, 1 hallway at a time. It's called "The Guy Who Didn't Talk Loud, but Changed Everything Anyway." Trump blinked hard, said nothing, just held the folder like it was gold. Because it was. He left the school before lunch. Quiet, as always. No announcements, just a ramp, a working sink, and a notebook that now held more than stories. It held America's heart. On the plane, he flipped through the pages. Mason, Lily, Zoe, Miguel, Jalen, Avenue Caleb, Devon, Lila, Ellis, a nation hidden in forgotten kids with unspoken wisdom. Each one handed him something. Not because he asked, but because he showed up. Not to be seen, but to see. He wrote one last line across the final page. The mop didn't just clean the floors, it cleared the way. Then he closed the book, sat in silence, and smiled. The news never broke the story. Not fully. Whispers floated. A blurry photo here, a rumor there. But no one had the full picture, just pieces. A janitor who looked familiar. A donation that arrived without a name. A kid who suddenly believed again. The notebook stayed with Trump. Worn edges, loose pages, full of sketches, scribbles, and second chances. He didn't keep it for legacy. He kept it as proof. That real change doesn't need microphones. It needs hands, boots, a mop, a chair pulled up when no one else would sit. Years later, someone asked him, "What was the most important thing you built?" He didn't say towers, didn't say brands, didn't say a presidency. He said, "I built a bench in a school hallway where a kid could feel seen. And if that's all I ever did right, it was enough." That answer never went viral. But it didn't need to, because the kids remembered, the teachers remembered, the schools remembered, and so will we. And that's where this story ends, at least for now, in a hallway, with a mop, and a message. Every American matters. No one is disposable. Where in the world are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And if this story of quiet leadership and showing up when no one else would moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. We share stories like this every week to uplift, inspire, and spark something deep. Share this with a friend, maybe someone who needs reminding that small things matter. Your support helps us keep telling these stories. Stories about second chances, stories about being present, stories that speak without shouting. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next one.